In this video, you will see a couple ways to add fractions. The first way, you rewrite each fraction with the lowest common denominator. And then we add the whole numbers and numerators, and then the denominators stay the same. And then if we get an improper fraction, we rename it as a mixed number and simplify if necessary. So in our first example, 4 and 7/8 plus 3 and 3/20, the lowest common denominator of these fractions is 40. So I'm going to rewrite 4 and 7/8 as 4 and 35 over 40. I get 35 over 40 because 8 times 5 is 40 and 7 times 5 is 35. I'm going to add that to 3 and 6 over 40. And I get the 6 over 40 because 20 times 2 is 40 and 3 times 2 is 6. When I add these two together, I add my whole numbers first, I get 7. And then I add my numerators. 35 plus 6 is 41 40ths. I have an improper fraction here, so I'm going to rename my improper fraction. 41 40ths is the same as 1, because 40 goes into 41 one time, with 1 40th left over. So my final answer here is 8 and 1 40th. This cannot be reduced, so I have found my answer. Next, we want to see the same problem, 4 and 7/8 plus 3 and 3/20, but I'll show you a different way of solving this. Okay, this one we're not going to find the least common denominator. You'll see this one the numbers tend to get a little bit larger, but here we're going to add the whole numbers together. 4 plus 3 is 7. Now I want to multiply diagonally my second denominator by my first numerator. So I take 20 times 7, and that is 140. Now I'm going to multiply my first denominator by my second numerator. 8 times 3, that is 24. Now I'm going to multiply across to multiply my denominators. 8 times 20 is 160. When I add up my numerator here, I get 7 and 164 160ths. This is an improper fraction, 164 over 160, so I want to rename it as a mixed number. So it's going to be 7 plus 160 goes into 164 one time, with 4 160ths left over. When I add my whole numbers here, I get 8 and 4 160ths. This can be reduced. Both the numerator and the denominator can be divided by 4. You're going to see I get the same answer as in the previous problem, 8 and 1 40th. So this is another way of adding fractions. You can see in this method, we don't use the least common denominator. We're just using a common denominator between the two denominators. And we do sometimes tend to work with bigger numbers, but it's another method you could use to solve problems where you're adding fractions.